Hi, my name's Jonathan, and I'm with Floyd Total Security. Today, I'm going to show you how easy it is to load lock firmware files onto your PPD and then update the firmware on your SALTO locks. First thing you're going to want to do is open up your RW Pro Access software and log fully in. You're then going to want to plug your PPD into the USB cord before you go up to the Connect PPD tab in your software. Click on that and you'll open up the PPD screen. You're then going to want to go down to the Download Firmware Files button here in the PPD screen and open that. You'll then get this Load Firmware File window to open up. You're then going to want to go to this little ellipsis button and click on that. What that does is allow you to browse to where you have stored your firmware files. I have stored all my files in a firmware folder, and when I open that, I've broken them out to the different types of devices that I have. You're then going to want to highlight the firmware files that you want and click Open, and then click Add. You're going to have to do this for each firmware file that you need to load onto the PPD for the device that you are working with. In this case, we're just going to load the 3 files that work with this SALTO lever set. Once you have selected the files that you need, click on Send Files. And while that's going on, you'll see the Sending Data screen on your computer. If you don't know what files go with which device, please refer to your SALTO device reference sheet. It has the device and the associated firmware files with it so that you can get the correct files onto the PPD. This does take a little bit of time. The more files that you put on the PPD, the longer it does take. Right now, we're about halfway through the second file that I've put onto this PPD. The PPD has got the correct firmware files. Click OK. Click Close. And click Close. You can now unplug your PPD from the computer. You're now going to want to turn on your PPD by pressing the red button. I'm going to turn on the backlight so you can see what's going on. You're then going to want to browse to the Update Firmware screen on your PPD. If it's not there, you can use the up or down arrows to get to that Update Firmware. You're going to click OK, and it'll show you which firmware files are on there. In this case, you can see 1 of 3. You can see the 3 different files that I've loaded onto the PPD. Now all you need to do is go to the lock, make sure that the up is pointed towards the top of the lock, and just simply plug it in to the lock. It will then start updating the files. And it may take a little bit of time, and depending on how old the firmware is in the lock and going to the new firmware, it can take a little bit of time. Once the firmware has been updated in the lock, you can unplug the PPD from the lock, and that is as simple as it is to updating the lock firmware with the PPD.